Welcome to another tier list, and this one is going to be Transformers. In case you hadn't noticed, I have been actually Hasbro Plus on YouTube has the whole entire seasons 1, 2, and 3. I think they're missing one or two that I've seen so far, and some. I still think that season 1 is the best. There are a couple of episodes here and there in season 2, and then season 3 being the one that's after the movie, which I even watched the movie, and I still think Rodimus Prime caused Optimus Prime's death, man. Anyway, these are characters, not all of them, because there's so many characters in the Transformers universe, but I'm sticking with G1 here. Like, and characters from the movies and so on. So the categories are rollout. They're my favorites. Transform, second favorites. Hold back. This is a category where I felt that I really liked these characters, but they didn't get enough screen time. And then Die Autobots are characters that, like, while cool, um, unfortunately didn't have enough there to continue. So let's get this out of the way. Prime. Um, Let's get the leaders out of the way. Okay, so Prime and Megatron are going in the top. They're badass. They're on both ends. Prime for, being the very heroic Autobot leader, strong, friendly. Both characters voiced really well. Um, Megatron for his calculating, plans. Some of them almost worked, but he always was scheming. And then it was cool in some episodes where, for a brief moment, Prime and Megatron kind of team up to kind of stop something. Um, Kind of like reminding us that they were friends at one point, which I thought was really cool, even though it's a brief moment. And the constant clash between the two, and then ultimately their final fight in the movie. And they're just really cool leaders and meant to be those leaders and strong, and they had all the traits that a good leader needs. So they are on the top two right off of that. Okay, so now we're going to go through the rest of them here. Wheeljack. I'm gonna put him in held back. It would have been cooler to see more of him. There were early on we got a bit of him. He constructed the Dinobots from what I recall, which I have not watched that one yet. But I'm pretty sure I remember that Wheeljack was the one that came up with the idea of making the Dinobots. Um, from what I remember. But I felt that like he was the scientist, kind of one of the smarter ones. But he, as the show went on, up to the movie, he got used less and less, which was a shame. It would have been nice to see more of him. And obviously, during the movie, his fate was revealed. So it's too bad that after that he didn't get to rejuvenate himself. um, this is Unicron. He is above all villains except for one more on here. Crazy. He is like against both sides. Um, I read a little bit of lore on him but want to go back and reread that because I forgot a lot about it. But he's a very interesting character introduced in Transformers the movie, and then he does throw his voice around in the one or two episodes after the movie. So in season three, from what I recall, just in the movie, he's got the presence. He's very villainous. He is basically the Galactus of Transformers. And he is. Uh, he eats planets. That's probably where the some of this idea of him came through. And yeah, he especially like in the beginning where of the Transformers movie where he's going through space and then he attacks one of the planets right away, and you can see the power of this planet, and and then in the end there, the climax where he transforms into his full robotic form. He's massive, and I always stress this. I always love the part where he like claws Cybertron across. Really cool villain. Really cool. Trailblazer. I have to put him in Die Autobots because he honestly wasn't a factor. He showed up early in season one and almost was never seen again. Why even have this dude? I think I had him as a toy. I mean, his toy was really cool. Um, and I also think with some of these characters, there, like obviously, if you have hundreds of characters, it's hard to get them to all shine in a show. Maybe more so, you put him in a movie. I don't think he survived the movie. Um, I don't remember seeing him get killed, but you never really saw him really after. I think I would just say season one, but I think he showed up just as a cameos in the background in season two. I can't remember, but yeah, Trailblazer was unfortunately a wasted character that never got to go anywhere, and I would put him in Held Back, but Wheeljack had more of a presence and was ashamed that he didn't get more opportunity where Trailblazer really didn't matter, unfortunately. Oh, Starscream. He's going in Transform. He was the constant antagonist to Megatron, really. He wanted to take Megatron's leadership over, but when he got opportunities, he tried. I'm honestly surprised that Megatron didn't blow him away after the first season, but it was so cool after Megatron was switched over to Galvatron, where Galvatron landed on the planet, and that whole exchange between Starscream and Galvatron shot Starscream and finally killed Starscream. That part I was so satisfied with and still am because Starscream was a butthole. He was so cocky that he and sure of himself that he would be good as a Decepticon leader. They in the original show they didn't really explain why he was like that. I don't recall in comics or anything. They may have explained that why he had he wanted to get rid of Megatron or something, but his fate was sealed the minute that he threw Megatron's battered body out of Astro Train in the Transformers the movie. That was it. You knew he was going to get smoked. Even the first time when I saw it, the Transformers movie in the theater when I was like very young, that scene, I'm like, yep, Starscream's bone. Like all the times that Starscream, his antics against Megatron, yeah. Um, I'm glad he got killed because if I was Megatron, I would have like smoked him, after a couple of times of treachery. So there he goes and transform. Springer is going into transform. I like this. I own the toy. Um, he showed up a lot in the third season, obviously, and he was introduced in the movie. Um, Interesting design. Um, I like the voice work of him. I don't recall them having a main episode about him or anything like that, but he worked as a solid soldier, much like another character I'm going to talk about here, who unfortunately got put in the back. But I like Springer. He's solid enough. Skylinks is going into Transform. He actually Skylinks had more scenes in the third season after the movie storyline. Um, I'm finding with the episodes I'm watching, like he's in it quite a bit, uh, and he's cool. Like his kind of pterodactyl form, and he's like a bigger ship. I don't know if he was bigger than Jetfire in terms of that, but yeah, Skylinks works much like Springer. He's a fellow Autobot, so um, RC, I believe that's her name, RC. She got held back. She could have been really, really. I don't know. I felt like, as I recall these episodes, there's still some that I gotta watch, but I'm not really watching them in order either. But I felt that her character could have been. Uh, she does eventually become a headmaster, which is cool, and I think that if that animation after season three continued, I think she would have been a huge part of the main lineup there, like main character focused. In my opinion, I don't know. I just felt like her character could have had more to do. Um, in my opinion. Triptychon. Hmm. I'm gonna put this in Diodobots. I've never really been a fan of the transformable cities. I did own Metroplex, who's on this list, but the transformable cities were kind of meh to me. Um, Triptychon is in a bunch of episodes in season three, but I never really found him that entertaining, to be honest. Uh, Metroplex, I'm gonna put in the same spot. His same thing. The transformable city. I mean, Metroplex basically he only came out when Triptychon was really around his scene, and then they fought every now and then, whatever. But the there should have been like built cities. I guess it was a cool idea to have a city become a robot, but not for me. I found the characters boring and forgettable. So they're going there. Quintessons are going at the top there. They now here's an asterisk beside these guys though. In the film, they're introduced amazingly. Creepy, mysterious, scary almost, with the faces kind of turning as especially when the one Autobot is on the plank and he's thrown into the Shark Decon tank and gets killed. I love how they switch over and say innocent, and it's cool the storyline and how they were the ones that made the Transformers, as far as I remember. But the problem was, and here's the asterisk part of this, in season three, they turned them into the biggest wusses possible. They had the odd plan where they, were scheming against the Autobots and Decepticons that could have been more interesting, but it would have been cooler if they had turned them into a more deeper villain, but it didn't happen. Um, but I always will have them at the top there because they were a cool idea uh, in having a villain like Unicron against both sides, and both sides had to deal with that. And it was a cool idea to know that there's this evil out there that's against both sides. I wish they would have delved deeper into that storyline. So that's why Quintessence is going there. I didn't feel like putting them in any category because they had such a cool presence in the movie and introduction, and eventually it's revealed that they created the Transformers, and um yeah. We got Perceptor. He's going in Transform. Cool, cool character. They actually, I find in season three episodes they've been using him a little more. But he's a cool character, a scientist. He's not really a fighter, and you get the sense of that when you see him and all that kind of stuff. Like Wheeljack, he's kind of like the a Data type character from Star Trek, where we go to him for like scientific answers, right? So he's going there. Superion or aerial bots. Hmm. I'm gonna put them in Die Autobots. I didn't like the first episode they were in. I remember it where um, they're kind of flimsy characters. Um, they get a little bit stronger as they go. Superion's a cool design. I had all the area bots for that. So, yeah. But character wise, I think they're just not that interesting. They're one of the few planes the Autobots have uh, in terms of characters, but take it or leave it with them. Shockwave, I'm going to put in Rollout. He was a really cool villain, more so in the comics than he was in the animated cartoon. He was in the animated cartoon. He was like the mystery, very dedicated follower of Megatron, protected Cybertron, sort of. Always liked his design. I did not own him, but a friend of mine did, and his laser gun form was really cool. Um, but in the comics, he ends up becoming a very main factor early on, especially in the Marvel comics. I believe they were the first iteration of the Transformer comics, like issue 4. um, I wish they would have used him more. I would have put him in Held Back, but I'm just going off of him in the comics with this character of how he is actually bigger there. Um, I don't think he survived after the movie, or they didn't use him much after the movie, but you don't see him perish, from what I remember. Um, so yeah, that's where Shockwave goes. Cup, I'm going to put in Transform, a very cool old Transformer. With experience and wisdom. He's kind of like the guy you go to for that. it was neat that they introduced a character like that into the Transformer character mix. Um, Watching him in the third season more and more, I really like his character. Obviously, got introduced in Transformers the movie, and but yeah, he's a cool character. Ravage is going into Transform. Um, he's one of my favorite tapes from all the tape characters, Shockwave and Blaster, or not Shockwave, Soundwave and Blaster. Um, just from the design, he's a really cool gun tape that can spy on things and stuff. And Laserbeak, I'm going to throw there too. So because there are two tapes, same thing. Laserbeak was really cool. Ravage is really cool. Obviously, Laserbeak was more of being able to travel further distances from the flight, and it was used quite a bit. Um, I think they were they survived the film. I know Soundwave did. Just trying to remember. I don't know if Ravage did. I think Laserbeak did, but they were cool tapes. Yeah. Jazz was held back. I feel he was in a few episodes, and he survived after the movie, and you didn't really see too much of him though. But I think that he was a really cool character, being the Porsche guy, and he was loyal to Prime, and but I wish he would have more on screen time. Um, it would have been cool. Fortunately, he didn't. Yeah, Ironhide putting in Transform, a tragic fate that befalls Ironhide in Transformers the movie. He probably was one of the ones that perished in the movie that I'm like, sucks. Um, it would have been cool to see him live on. He was just like that tough Transformer that wanted to beat all the Decepticons up, and unfortunately, he had his comeuppance, and you know, but it was cool that he was used in quite a bit of the um, older cartoons, old Transformer cartoons. But yeah, he was cool. Hound is like RC. Uh, you see, well, more Hound was used like in a couple episodes, but then like disappeared entirely from being in the mix. I'm not sure why they did that, but I like the character a lot. The kind of the Jeep character, and early on, Spike kind of develops a relationship with him, and he just like disappeared. I guess they wanted Spike to go more with Bumblebee in that relationship there. I don't know why they did Hound dirty that way, but it would have been cool if Hound was a still around main character. I don't think he died in the movie because you see cameo here and there of him in the background, unless that's an animation error. But yeah, it's too bad he never got to stick around. I liked him a lot. Secticons. Mm, I'm gonna put them in Dinobots. They were okay. I had one of them. I can't remember which one, but I had one of them. I think it was the Pincer one. Can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. Um, I kind of remember where they introduced them, and they're like they eat metal, and sure, but they ultimately were like cannon fodder, especially in the movie. That's why I don't think any of them survived. The one had his head crushed. um, so yeah, that I think he eventually got transformed into one of the sweeps, I think. But yeah, they weren't all that exciting for my taste. Is what it is. Galvatron, I'm going to put in held back. I owned his toy, and it was cool. The whole thing with him is I didn't like was making him sound like an insane leader. I mean, yeah, they kind of explained where he was in the lava and whatever, and it kind of messed his brain up, whatever. But come on, he was not as calculative when he was Megatron. Megatron was a better, stronger leader, in my opinion. I mean, they're the same kind of person, but Galvatron is in the movie. He was cool. Like a movie, he felt like he still had a bit of that Megatron persona in him when he got transformed to Galvatron. But in the season 3, he was always shouting. He was always I don't know. I felt like he could have been a lot cooler. Um, I mean, come on, when you go from like him landing on that planet and just blasting Starscream in the movie, incinerating him, and then he turns to the Decepticons and kind of what was the line he used? Anyone else want to take his place? And kind of all the Decepticons are looking at each other like, no. um, yeah, it there was so much potential they could have had with Galvatron. You didn't even see him and Rodimus Prime really tangle as much in season 3, where Megatron and Prime were always kind of in each other's face and kind of fighting each other and all that. And it was disappointing with his character, so that's where Galvatron goes. Rodimus Prime or Hot Rod, I never liked. Um, the only reason that he's not in Die Autobots is because as Rodimus Prime, there possibly was potential for his character, I felt. But he was a wimp compared to Optimus Prime. Like he's even as Rodimus Prime, it feels like sometimes he's not sure of himself, and he kind of still has that hot rod mentality. It doesn't feel like he grows out of it from the episodes that I have seen or remember anyway. And he's not present in a lot of the season 3 episodes because a lot of them are other Transformers, which is fine. But I don't know. His character got held back. Maybe because I don't know. Maybe the producers or whoever thought that he would have taken off as a character, but really didn't take off and got pushed back. And maybe that's why they didn't have him in a lot of the season 3 episodes, and he was kind of left in the background. It did show up when he had to, like in the Return of Optimus Prime episode and whatnot. But he's a character that just faded, in my opinion. And even in Transformers the movie, I was kind of like, eh. So Cyclonus, I love Cyclonus. He's one of those ones that underutilized. However, when he is in the episode, he's really cool. He's a loyal Galvatron follower. Um, and it's funny I from what I recall, he doesn't transform a lot into his ship mode. You see the sweeps do that more, but his you don't. I remember not seeing too often. But I'm trying to think, going back to like who the hell he was before he became Cyclonus in the movie. I think he was one of the planes or something. It was the Insecticons and Megatron that were thrown out of the Astro train. I want to look that up because it's going to bug me now. Skywarp. I thought so. Okay. So he was one of the planes. I knew it. Just wasn't sure which one it was. But Cyclonus, I like just the design, his voice, all that stuff. Really cool. Braun is going up there and roll out. I've always liked the character Braun. He's small, but he threw his weight around. He attacked Megatron a few times, which was cool. Um, Fortunately, he met his end in Transformers the movie. I was pissed about that death. Like, oh, I was. When I was a kid and saw him get killed on the big screen from one shot in the back, like in the shoulder, and then blew out his back. But I'm like, oh man. Ironhide was tough to watch go down, but Braun, I tell you, I was upset with that. Um, Also with Prime when he went down. So Braun was cool and will be remembered for his season 1 and season 2 episodes when he showed up. And yeah, Blitzwing. I've always liked the triple changer of Blitzwing. Um, there was that episode where him and Astro Train decided to kind of like go against the Decepticons there and Territorial, from what I remember, and that was a very interesting episode. And but he's had some really cool scenes. Um, what was that one? It was I just watched it too. Well, anyway, the scene is Rodimus Prime and Galvatron standing there, and Blitzwing was helping the Autobots kind of stop this bad threat, and he points his gun at Galvatron, basically saying like, no fighting anymore today, or he will write its conclusion, or some line like that. And Galvatron, of course, going, "Ah, ah, ah, ah." But Blitzwing's had some cool moments throughout the entire run, so he's going up there. He survived, obviously, after the movie. So, Mastro Train. Um, I'm gonna put Held Back. He's had some episodes. He survived after the movie. Um, but I think his character was held back. Blitzwing seemed to get more momentum, more scenes. I felt from my memory, where Astro Train was in there, but as a triple changer, his the best episode with him was the one where him and Blitzwing were kind of going against the grain. So I'm gonna put him there. Um, I like him, but it would have been cool to see more of him, like more centered, focused. Sometimes Jetfire, what a waste of a character. They he was barely. They introduced him. Let me see if I recall this. I know I haven't watched the episode, but I remember parts of it where Jetfire was, I think, found by Megatron or something. He was made a Decepticon, but then Jetfire realized what the Decepticons were, and changed sides. But he was barely a footnote in much of the run of season one and two, and probably died um, in the movie at some point. But I don't recall ever seeing him at all. Um, with some minor episodes he was thrown in for background. Like here's a character that just felt like Hound. You're just in there, and then we don't need you now. We kind of wipe their hands with them. It's a shame. It's a real shame. I think it would have been an interesting early character, before Skylinks came along. Um, yeah. Uh, I think it was him that had the grudge against Starscream, if I recall, in the storyline. I'd have to, yeah, I have to watch that again. But anyway, um, Blaster, I'm gonna put in Held Back, and Soundwave, I'm gonna put in Transform. Now, why I do that is because Soundwave got front and center as the one with the tapes. He was the second in command, loyal to Megatron through and through. And even, he had his moments in season three, not as much, uh, but he was a really cool character with all the tapes and whatnot. And Blaster, I felt, could have been utilized a little bit more. The Soundwave and Blaster in the animated show did have their one confrontation episode. It was all right, but it was a little underwhelming. However, in the Japanese cartoon, they actually had a rough and tumble combat, and I did watch that clip, and it was brutal, where both do each other in pretty much. Although Soundwave cheats and he ends up he survives because his uh, parts get taken and he gets resurrected, which Blaster he didn't. So that would have pissed me off. But that was the Japanese cartoon there. Bob Blaster could have been utilized a little more. I think he was showing up a bit more in the season three. He did survive after the movie. Um, but I like Soundwave's tapes better. Rumble, Frenzy, Ravage, Blit, Laserbeak. I can't name Blaster's tapes. I think one of them was Razor or something, but like they weren't as interesting as Soundwaves because Soundwaves is more about scouting, stealth, spying, which I liked cooler. They were cooler concept. Okay, we got Bruticus, so that is the Combaticons that Starscream had basically created. Mm, I'm gonna put them in held back because I like the idea that Starscream got basically made them. He was going to attempt to overthrow Megatron with Bruticus, which was the big form that the Baticons could form into. The fact that they were like World War II machines. That episode was actually really cool. They ended up being kind of a two-parter where Bruticus, the Combaticons, tried to kind of go off on their own because they were originally their sparks were imprisoned on Cybertron in the Decepticon prison hold center. Starscream got them out, so all that was a really interesting concept. Uh, it was held back because it would have been cool if they kind of went renegade on their own against the Decepticons somehow, and because Starscream got them all up and about, it would have been an interesting storyline going into the movie about that. I don't know. I'm just like theorizing, but didn't happen, and well, they eventually became obscure. Devastator is going into Transform with the Constructicons. They are shown in a lot of episodes. Devastator was in the movie, really cool, where he's tearing through the Autobot base and whatnot. And then the Dinobots come down and kind of like one of them rams him into the wall. And Devastator has had some really cool sequences. The Constructicons are cool um, in their own, but Devastator is probably my favorite out of all the kind of like Transformers that can form a bigger uh, robot, like Voltron. That's possibly where they got that idea from with all these merging Transformers into one big one. But who knows? I know that's not all of the characters because there's so many, but those are like my main ones that followed from all the Transformer episodes and whatnot. Um, Let me know in the comments who is some of your favorite Transformers. They're probably not listed here. Um, you definitely have different opinion than mine, but these are ones that I thought were where they should be. Um, like I said, this first season's the best. And then obviously you got the movie. And then there's the odd episode there that does shine. Um, and finally, before I end the video, in regards to the return of Optimus Prime and kind of how he comes back in season three, I remember getting all giddy about it and, of course, loving it. But as an adult, when I watched him, it doesn't make any sense. So he's what's he he's in the burial uh kind of floating memorial, I guess we'll call it. And Autobots find him and yada 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 happens. I don't want to spoil too much here. Where at the end of that episode, he goes to sacrifice himself to save everybody, and he has like part of his face blown off and his arm blown off, and then in the actual episodes after that, with Return of Optimus Prime, these humans pull him out at full body, no missing parts or nothing, which is doesn't make any sense. And he eventually does awaken, and it's cool that he basically saves both Autobots and Decepticons from this um, kind of anger disease, I guess, or anger energy, whatever it's called in the episode. Um, and I think from there, with Galvatron shaking Prime's hand at the end of the episode, where he says, "There will be no war today," I thought was a really nice touch. And I thought that that would have been a cool final ending of that bunch of characters there. They did eventually have the Headmaster episodes after, which I think were a couple of episodes after, which was cool. Probably would have started a Headmasters TV show, which I think they did have. I'd have to look it up. But overall, with the return of Optimus Prime, it was kind of lackluster. Could have been better, but um, I'm glad they brought him back because he was like obviously one of my favorite characters there. I do miss Megatron though. I watching the third season. I do miss Megatron. Galvatron, I'm just not buying the whole shouting crazy way he turned what he became. He was cool in the movie, but in the TV show, he's eh, annoying, to be honest. Um, and then Starscream's Ghost episode was interesting. Um, they could have gone a little further after that episode with Starscream, but it really didn't go anywhere. Um, so yeah, I just feel that I understand that it's like a show, and I'm critiquing an old show, and it was just obviously meant for kids and all who look at the show and they see Transformers, and that's what they're kind of going for. But I'm looking at it from like characters and right perspective. I'm not. I know I shouldn't do it because it was an old show, but I'm just giving my opinions on it. That where some of these storylines and some of these characters could have been uh, deepened a little bit more. But I guess we've been spoiled with deeper shows. You know what I mean? Like not just animated, but look at Castlevania on Netflix. I mean, holy shoot, that season was fantastic. The first one, I have not. I think there's a second one, and I have not seen it. I watched it yet, but just me thinking, where some of these characters could have gone and all that kind of stuff. But it is what it is. This is just a TV show with a bunch of robots in disguise, which stood up for what it was when it was on and had my imagination go bananas. And they're characters that I still enjoy watching and rewatching more than others. And that's fine. You know, it's a show that lasted for 3 seasons and a movie and was great for kids, including myself. So again, let me know in the comments who your favorite top um, characters are in the G1 and um, animated show, and who are your least favorite, perhaps. And go from there. But thank you all for watching, and great to see the views keep growing in my videos there, and keep them up. Thank you to all my subscribers, and we'll catch you later.